Well, by now you've articulated what you're resolving to do, your mission resolution. That's fantastic. You've come up with some roles that are going to be required in order to get that mission done. You're recruiting people into those roles. Hopefully those people feel like they're in relationships, great relationships with you and the people around them, and that it's a rewarding experience being part of the team. What I want to talk about now, which is the next element of the Resolute Leader, is how do you resource the mission? How do you find what is needed to kind of fuel the mission as it goes forward? In the chapter, I talk a lot about faith and how we need to be pressing into God and trusting God to supply what we need for the mission. And as a leader, the challenge for you, as it is still for me, is that our faith for the provision for the mission continues to grow as we seek and trust God more to provide. Sounds strange talking about, faith growing, but the Bible seems to indicate that, some people didn't have enough faith. Jesus commends a woman who had great faith. In Mark chapter 9, there's a story of a man who said, Jesus, I believe, but help me also in my unbelief. So he kind of was living in that tension that a lot of us do. Well, yeah, we trust God, but we know we need to trust Him more. At the start of the chapter, I talk about how important faith is, and I suggest a whole bunch of things that might help increase your faith, help encourage you in the area of faith. But look, truth be told, you can't really learn about faith in a classroom or even in a book. Actually, it's on the ragged edge of the mission that we really learn to press into God and see His miraculous provision for what we need. In the chapter, I also talk about how, for most of us, our context for the mission is in the local church. And the local church usually has a budget process that helps resource the missions of the church. And so what I encourage you to do, again, this is a very practical book, it's very practical teaching. What I encourage you to do is find out how that budget process works. The local church has a long history of offerings being collected and then those resources being distributed so that the mission can continue. And so I encourage you to find out how that works and to make a great application to those people who make decisions about finances in your church, so that not only can they know about what your ministry is about and hopefully believe in what you're doing, but also direct some resources in that direction. At the end of the chapter, I talk about, in the end, we always need to take a step of faith. I tell the story of Joshua, who was mentored by Moses, who was mentored by Jethro. And I tell the story about how Joshua came to the Jordan River with the people of Israel. They were about to enter into the promised land. And the Jordan River was in flood. It was a very, very dangerous crossing. It couldn't humanly be done. And in that story, Joshua learned a lot about faith and leadership, because the Bible says it wasn't until the priest's feet touched the waters of the Jordan River that the waters parted so that the people could cross. And very often as a leader, what it takes is for us to have the trust, to have the courage, to actually lead from the front, to take bold steps of faith as we lead our teams into the promised land that God has for us, that thing that He wants us to move into as part of our mission, as part of the team. So read the chapter. I hope it really encourages you as you press into God for the kind of resources that you're going to need to fuel the mission. It's a chapter I think that will really help you, and I want to encourage you to check it out.